Hey guys, Ben here and welcome back to another video on Superman Lois Season 4. Today we're going to be talking about some breaking news from Bitsie Tulloch herself. So if you do go on to enjoy the video, please be sure to leave a like and a comment and subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any future videos later this year. Okay, so we got some breaking news. This is coming from Bitsie Tulloch. She recently attended a con in Metropolis, Illinois, which is a very fitting name and place for a Comic Con to be held, especially when it's, 2024 Superman Celebration, as it's called. And so Bitsie was there talking about Lois Lane, talking about Superman Lois, talking about the fourth and final season, and she was answering questions from the fans, and she actually gave some really good answers. Now, I can't take credit, I was not there at the 2024 Superman Celebration. The video was taken by Sassy Ann Shenfield, and it's up on supermanhomepage.com. That's where I'm getting all my information from, so link will be in the description below, so you can go ahead and watch the video with the Bitsie Tulloch Q&A from that Comic-Con convention. And basically I watched like the 50-minute long convention just with the suspicion that she would let loose some pieces of information that might be brand new and might be very interesting. And let me tell you guys, she has dropped a bomb, and we're gonna get through this because there is quite a few points that I want to touch on that she touches on, and we got a couple of other Superman Lois videos talking about what she says in this video that's going to come out in the next couple of days, because I want to split it into multiple videos because I think they all deserve their own segment. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is to do with episode 1, to do with season 4, and this is how she begins. So everyone was sad that the cast is there to a lesser extent this season, but I think that the way that they wrote it was lovely. That's what Bitsie had to say. And by the way, some of this is me kind of paraphrasing a little bit because it just wasn't exactly super clear. Sometimes the sentences were cut up. And so I'm just reading off my notes and breaking it down like bit by bit with you guys. And so, yeah, that was her reaction. She said it was very sad that the cast was cut down. Obviously, she's referring to the fact that the CW cut the final season down and cut, who was going to be appearing. And so she goes on to say at least one of the series regulars is in every episode of the 10 episodes this season. So that is a brand new confirmation. That's not the big thing we're talking about, but that is very important that she has confirmed that at least one of the series regulars, the X-series regulars who used to be a big part of the show, will be in every episode. So what she means by that is one episode it will be Sarah, one episode is going to be Lana, one episode it will be John Henry and Natalie. So that will continue throughout the 10 episodes, and so you won't have an episode that is purely Kent family and purely Lex Luthor, ignoring all the other main characters from the show in the past. So I think that's good, and I like that they actually wrote it that way. And as Bitsie said, she thought it was lovely the way that they wrote it, just to kind of include them despite all the cutbacks. And so she says it doesn't feel like it's just the Kent family, and I think that is very, very important because the show wasn't just the Kent family. Yeah, they're the core of the show, and Lex is going to be very important in this final season, but those other characters really rounded out the show, because if it was just the Kent family, we would have had much less time and the world of Superman Lois would be a lot smaller. And so she goes on to say, you guys are not going to believe the first episode. It's bananas. Now guys, let me tell you what, this is the huge piece of information that you have to listen to, so here we go. It's emotional, but what they did, it's actually based on one of the comics, and it's a very bold decision on their part to pull it off for the first episode of season 4. So let me repeat that once again. You guys are not going to believe the first episode. It's bananas, it's emotional, but what they did is based off one of the comics. It's a very bold decision on their part to pull it off for the first episode of season 4. Now, instantly, when I heard this, I freaked out, because that is basically Bitsie confirming they are doing a massive storyline and making a very bold decision right at the start of season 4. Now what could that be? Well, it's clearly the death of Superman story arc, so I feel I can go as far as saying she has just confirmed they are doing the death of Superman story arc, because that's what we've been thinking since season 3 ended, since Doomsday and Superman were fighting on the moon and it looked like Doomsday was going to get the better of Superman. And we were all like, okay, is this leading towards Death of Superman? Could they do that in the first half of the season? Well, according to Bitsie, it's emotional, and obviously the Death of Superman story arc is very emotional, and it's based off one of the comics, the way that they start season 4, and she says it's a very bold decision, and I think killing Superman is a extremely bold decision, probably the boldest decision you could make on a show with Superman being the main character along with Lois. And so it's going to be emotional for Lois. I think that's where she's bringing the emotions into it. And so it's seemingly going to be for the first episode, but the ramifications will be throughout the first half of the season, I guess. That's just what I am taking away from her comments. But yeah, it's going to be in the first episode, that major decision, and it's going to be probably the Death of Superman, just based on everything that she's saying. So expect them to continue where they left off, because apparently, according to her, and she says this in the interview a tiny bit later, episode 1 is a direct pickup from season 3's ending, and again I'm paraphrasing here, but there is no skipping forward. So we're going to be beginning with the Doomsday fight, or the aftermath just after. That is my thoughts, right? So I'm adding into it that I think it could be just the aftermath of that fight. We don't necessarily have to see the whole fight between Doomsday and Superman. You could pick up with, you know, a couple of minutes later or 10 minutes later, and Superman's dead, dying on the floor, and that's where we pick up, rather than, you know, in the exact shot that we left off. And so yeah, she was referring to that in terms of Tyler in the off season. He grew this massive beard, it was like grey and everything, and they were thinking, oh, can we bring this into the show? But then she confirmed in her Comic-Con appearance in the video that they had to think about continuity, and that's why Tyler had to shave his beard. Like, they couldn't keep it in because they're picking up right after where we left off season 3. And so that leads me to believe we are 100% or maybe 99% going to get the Death of Superman story arc. So what's your reaction to that? Please let me know down in the comments below, because I was freaking out when I heard this. I think me, like some of you guys, were under the assumption with all the changes and the fact that it's only 10 episodes and we're going to have less of the other characters, that we were going to probably gloss over what happened at the end of season 3, the fight between Doomsday and Superman, and that's because of the budget cuts. Now, obviously we're making big assumptions, and we're not always right about, you know, our theories and stuff. So with that in mind, do we think if Superman is going to be dead, is he going to be dead for one episode, or is it going to be multiple? I think surely you have to go multiple, but then again, I said the same thing for Flashpoint way back in the day in season 3 of The Flash, where I was like, surely you can't do Flashpoint in one episode, and they pretty much did it in one episode, and it wasn't as good as it could have been, because they should have extended it into, you know, the first 5 episodes or something like that, or even 3. And so I wonder, is part of the reason we barely seen any of Tyler in the Superman costume, and is part of the reason why we've seen, you know, some flashbacks happening, could it be that they're filling up the time in the episodes whilst Superman is actually dead, and could he be gone for more than one episode? So clearly he's going to die, and Death of Superman's going to be in episode 1, but I wonder when he's actually going to come back to life, and I wonder, are we going to see, you know, him in a black suit? Is he going to have, you know, a beard? Is he going to have long hair, kind of like black suited Superman in the comics? So I think it is truly time to freak out, because I was not expecting this. As I said, I think I kind of just accepted that we're probably going to gloss over the cliffhanger and cut to like a few weeks later or a month later, and we would just like restart kind of where we left off, but in a different way, in a less action-packed way. But now I truly do believe, with her comments to do with them taking a really bold decision at the start of season 4, I really do believe it's actually the Death of Superman. So yeah, I can't wait to hear you guys' thoughts, because I don't think I've seen anyone else report on this. And luckily I watched through that whole interview, that whole panel, and I found this and I was like, oh my god, I can't believe this. And so let's move on. Bitsie had a few more things to say about season 4, so we're going to break that down. So she said, in regards to the tone of the show and how the show has changed, she said it's very much still a superhero show, but at the end of the day, the show is really about family, and there is a greater emphasis on that rather than just big action sequences this season. So I think we all kind of understood for a while that we're going to get less action in this season. Again, we barely have seen Tyler in the Superman costume, but also they didn't really go to, you know, outdoor locations in the middle of Vancouver where there's loads of photographers. So yeah, really we wouldn't have seen that anyway. But nevertheless, Bitsie confirms it's going to be much more orientated around the family and kind of the emotional impact of what's going to happen potentially with the Death of Superman arc. And it's still a superhero show, as she says, but there's going to be more emphasis on the family and friend side. But I feel like they've always done that for a long time, but they did find a good balance in the past 3 seasons between, you know, the family stuff and then the stuff with Superman and then the villains and all of that. I feel like they always struck a good balance. So this season, potentially we could see a little bit more skewed towards like the family scenes rather than maybe as many action sequences, which is fair enough given the budget cuts, but I just hope it still stays within that DNA of what has already been established on Superman Lois. So she goes on to say some characters come back. Now, she doesn't mention what characters come back, but she mentions Michael Cudlitz has a huge presence as well in season 4. He is so good as Lex, and there is an adherence and Easter eggs to the comics in regards to his Lex. Now, with that in mind, I'm wondering, could we see him in an Alexo suit? I do think that is very likely, and I'm a big advocate for that. I can't wait to see that. I really hope it happens, and I think that's where the Easter eggs come in. But in regards to some characters coming back, now, I don't think she's referring to the main cast members, because those X-series regulars she actually talked about earlier in the panel, and she talked about them quite a lot. So I think some returning characters, I think those people are different. Could she be referring to maybe like Tom Cavanaugh appearing in the show, returning as a fellow Arrowverse face that is very familiar but potentially a version of the character from Superman Lois's Earth? Or is she referring to, you know, like Lucy Lane or someone that we've had on Superman Lois specifically in the past that is going to show up? So it seems there are a few cameos that are set to actually happen in this season, and Bitsie went on to emphasize that someone reappears that you're not expecting to reappear at some point during season 4. Now obviously this is a lot to think about, a lot to ponder upon, because who exactly is that? I'm going to say that's probably not Tom that she's specifically referring to here. I think this is a Superman Lois actor who is returning. Now, I don't know in terms of behind the scenes. I'm trying to think, who do I know that is coming to the show for this season? Well, I don't really know anyone specific. Like, I haven't heard that the actor who plays Lucy Lane is going to be reappearing, or is it going to be John Diggle, who has appeared on the show multiple times in the past? Let me know down in the comments below who would be your top pick to return. Who do you think we're not expecting to return that will reappear in this final season? So that pretty much does it for this video, guys. I really want to hear your thoughts about all of this, especially to do with the death of Superman and to do with that final appearance of a returning character that Bitsie mentioned during the panel. So if you enjoyed this video, please be sure to leave a like and a comment. It would really help the video get out there. Also, subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any future videos. We're uploading daily right now. Double uploads. I uploaded a MCU video earlier today. Go check that video out. You can click on the link on the top right corner of the screen to watch that video. But for now, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys later. Goodbye.